Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're playing Operations, this time the Arctic Convoy. Now I know I'm a little bit late to this, and I will do my best to play the next one, Tokyo Express by the looks of things, in this In the Name of Tomorrow event. Where as a reminder, you can get San Diego completely for free, just by playing the game. And how you do that is by earning stars in these operations will get you progress towards getting that San Diego. The goal, of course, would be to get 5 stars in every operation. That's going to be the most efficient way. I found, though, that getting 4 stars wasn't too bad, but getting that 5th star took a lot of care and thought in how I positioned my ship, and more importantly, which ship I was playing. As a battleship, especially at these tiers, you're pretty slow, and it's really important that we keep these Liberty ships moving. That was the main one that I ran into as a bit of a roadblock on getting 5 stars. I had an absolute blast playing this game mode, by the way. Playing Operations again was super fun. Played 3.5 hours straight. If you know me, I often can barely get to 2 hours worth of streaming before I'm rather frustrated with this video game. So that's a pretty good improvement. I had a good time overall here, managing to play some battleships, some cruiser, and destroyer. And I have some tips and thoughts on how we want to be positioning our ships to get the most value out of them and hopefully be earning those 5 stars. Here we're starting with no division, but I did div up with a bunch of stream viewers. Not a full try-hard div by any means, but generally people who are watching the stream tend to know what they're doing, so we had a pretty good time after that. But in this one, I really want you to notice how the Liberty ships are moving. This is the most important part of the Arctic Convoy event. If you're wondering why you can't seem to get many stars, it's going to come down to engaging the Liberty ships at the right time. When you get near them, they're going to start on their transport trajectory, and they'll wiggle around the map quite a lot. But what you need to realize is they're going to often just cross paths with each other, going on one of 3 trajectories across the map between islands. Usually, there's going to be a Liberty ship going pretty far south around that large island on the 6th line. You can see that Liberty ship going for that right now. And it's really important that you keep that ship in particular moving because it's the furthest away from that rendezvous point. And this is the one. Ensure all transport ships reach the rendezvous point before the time runs out. And how you know they've reached the rendezvous point is they will turn off their passive healing circle as well as smoke up and stop. That's how you know they made it there in time. And this was the big one that I was missing most of the time. With Royal Sovereign, I'm pretty slow, so I'm not really going to have much impact on that. What I am going to be able to do is tank and deal a lot of damage for my team. So in a bit of a traditional tanking role as a battleship, you want to get up towards the CD islands and try to play in front or towards the northern side of the Liberty ships and your teammates. You need to keep the enemy team focused on you, because it's a lot of low-tier ships. You shouldn't be too afraid of their damage in a battleship, especially if you can be around one of those Liberty ships with the healing. And yeah, they tend to explode, especially when they're angled like that, overmatch. Royal Sovereign's a crazy pick for this. I had a good time in Lugdunum as well. I'm sure a lot of you have been playing that one. And if you want a free-to-play option for battleship, I would recommend playing something like a Synop, for example. But just having the ability to run secondaries alongside main guns is so crucial to getting a lot of value out of your battleship. There's going to be plenty of times where you leave a ship on very low HP, and maybe your teammates are shooting at it as well. You don't want to be wasting salvos on that, because your large battleship guns, there's so many cruisers here. You want to be getting good value out of those. So leaving your secondaries to target some of the low health, smaller ships to finish them off has worked out really well. And you'll notice I'm trying to keep a trajectory here, putting myself in between my teammates and where the enemy ships are spawning. That was the key with Battleship, I think, in getting good value out of it, protecting my teammates overall in that way. Notice, though, that the enemy ships also spawn behind us. That nearly cost us a couple times, in fact. So make sure you're clearing up those flanks. That's more of a cruiser and DD role depending on where those transport ships go. I found when I was playing cruiser and destroyer, as we'll see later in later clips, that running around the map, cleaning up different ships on these flanks, as well as getting the right transport ships to their location as soon as possible, was a better role for those faster destroyers and cruisers. But as a battleship here, this is exactly where we want to be. So if you're playing a battleship, try to get to these positions here along the D line here. It's maybe a little bit too close, but Royal Sovereign with its Hydra, I'm not too worried about the torpedoes. But while I was playing Lugdunum, I actually died pretty early to spamming of torps when I overpushed. Now notice we just failed that secondary task because we actually lost a Liberty ship. That's another problem with this part of the task is if you get them there too early, sometimes they can be sitting ducks. It's a convoy. You got to support and protect those convoy ships. And when we're playing a battleship that's so slow like this, well, you can't dilly-dally. You really got to get up there into the fight and protect those ships. Now, this was the one time I think I lost one of those Liberty ships. For the most part, it was down to the timing, especially on the longest range Liberty ship. The one that goes all the way from the 1 or 2 line all the way to the end. Sometimes it goes way to the north, even up to the B line at times. Other ways, it goes down south. You just really got to pay attention to that one in particular. And the other two will often just pick up along the way as we're getting that first or farthest transport ship towards the rendezvous point. Now at this stage of the operation, we need to stay here as a battleship and protect those Liberty ships because they're going to hold their position until we've dealt with the minefields. Or more likely, it'll be on a timer. You got to deal with 2 destroyers that are rushing the Liberty ships. Sometimes they both spawn south, sometimes they'll spawn north and south. So you have to deal with those. As a battleship, you want to be there to help on that. But send your DDs ahead to go deal with the minefields. Your plane-based ASWs can do a decent job of clearing mines, but for the most effective way, you really want the ones that are ship-based, the ones that drop off the side of your ship. Those are going to clear out the minefields incredibly quickly. The Liberty ships won't be healing at this time anyway. They'll be sitting in their smokes. So as a battleship, if you just sit here and protect, make sure you get these destroyers, these Z-38s here. One spawn north, one spawn south in this instance. And then help those destroyers to go forward and clear those mines. Once that's done, it's pretty easy to get the rest of this operation done. Generally, I found myself at this point not really losing out on any stars because it's really about protecting a couple Liberty ships to the end, which isn't too bad if you're playing a battleship in a position like this one. We're taking a lot of the focus here. And then also finishing off a few ships at the end. It's like 7 ships you need to take out as a final mission, or sometimes it's 4 cruisers. Keep an eye out for that one as well. It's not too bad at that point. I've found 4 stars to be rather reasonable to obtain, so you'll get through these missions relatively quickly. Although keep in mind, it gets a little harder towards the end of the stage or episode, however they're calling these things. At that 12th one, you actually need 6 stars to finish that last section. It'll take you a little bit, but since this is PvE, I found it a lot more relaxing to play. Maybe put a podcast on, or maybe you're watching a YouTube video. Maybe you're watching this video while playing the operation. I hope you're having fun. If that's the case, enjoy yourself, but take it a little bit chill. Just play the game, relax, and you'll get through it in no time. Again, 3.5 hours is all it took for me to go from 0 stars all the way to finishing this first stage. Now we optimized a little bit, and definitely we're averaging around 4.5 stars per operation. But for a week's worth of playing, I don't think that'll be too bad for most people. Playing a battleship was a lot of fun, brawling it out with some of these secondary ships. Unfortunately, there is a bit of a limitation on which secondary ships you can use. British, French, Soviet, Dutch, and European ships are what are allowed. And there's no free tech tree secondary ships there. So that's where that idea behind like a Synop, very tanky, solid guns, especially at close range, can do really, really good work as well. You can tank maybe even longer than my Royal Sovereign here can. Even though we got super heals on this one and the secondaries, our armor is not nearly as good as the Synop would be. And for this last star here to finish off the last couple enemy ships, 5 out of 7 at this point. Not too difficult, although we're pretty close to going down here. But this is why the secondary battleships do so well in this one. You're able to target the destroyers, and your main guns are going to do good damage into DDs, but oftentimes battleships can be a little trolly with RNG, and to wait 30 seconds or so to get damage into destroyers isn't quite as good as being able to target multiple ships all at once. So here we're going to finish off a DD, and then we're going to switch our secondaries and finish off another DD for a double strike, as well as finish off another cruiser out there for a triple strike. Yeah, it's the Royal Sovereign here is pretty good in this game mode. It's so unfortunate that it's in an expensive Admiral pack if you want it, but it is very fun here. In Lugdunum, that is the 2024 Christmas, one of the Battle Pass ships, I believe, from 2024 Christmas season, is also absolutely incredible. Had a blast playing that one as well. So here we go. We got ourselves only 4 stars. Yeah, I had to go back and watch why we lost a couple of times. This one, we lost the ship before they all got to that rendezvous point. Another time, we were too late. Another multiple times, I was way too late in getting that ship to the rendezvous point. Absolutely ridiculous amount of damage, and really good credits too, by the way, out of this game mode. We can also farm out our dockyard missions in this game mode. So if you're someone who's not as interested in PvP sometimes to farm some of these missions out, it's much more relaxing when you're playing PvE stuff. This is a really, really good event to go for. Many free portions of this update that you can grind through in this operation. Now moving on to cruisers, I actually think cruisers and DDs bring a lot more utility and have a lot more swing over whether you win this map or not. Now notice our first Liberty ship is going way to the north. This is like the only time I saw this path, by the way. But it means some of the other Liberty ships are going to go way to the south. And battleships generally aren't going to be fast enough to do this. So we need cruiser support here. It's not just the destroyers that can go north here. This is why I'm going to play as close as I can to my DDs here. You have so much more firepower to keep your DDs in the fight and finish off a lot of these cruisers and destroyers very, very quickly. Now notice our Rook also getting a second Liberty ship, and that's the close one to the rendezvous point. A little bit too early, maybe? We'll see if that works out. Keep an eye on that guy. He will be escorting it, though, so that's a battleship to protect it. Look at how many spawns in the north the enemy has, though. This is why I always want to go north here, at least to help out my DDs. Oftentimes, the Liberty ship will cut south a lot sooner than it is in this one. But if you do see it going this far north, you definitely need a cruiser or a very fast battleship, at the very least, to go up here alongside your DDs. They aren't going to take out this many cruisers on their own. So bringing something like a Fiji, this one is completely tech tree free to play, and it is incredible in this mode. The AP, the British AP, it's got short fuses, got improved pan angles, does monstrous damage into every single one of these DDs and cruisers that we're going to be fighting against. Even got some torps and hydro for utility here. It's not too bad. And like I mentioned, oftentimes you're going to pick up that second or third Liberty ship on your way while you're escorting that furthest away Liberty ship. And that's what's happening here in the north. We're picking up that next one. It's really that one Liberty ship down to the south. Oftentimes, I think that southern path is decent if the battleship is fast enough. You know, something like a Rook is quick enough to keep up. It's around 30 knots, actually, that these Liberty ships go at. But oftentimes, the DD might have to go escort that southern one. Maybe a cruiser as well. Just depends on if you have enough range as a cruiser. A DD can go down there and scout things out, as well as get a little head start on getting towards the minefield, that kind of thing, or the two destroyers they have to take out a little bit later on. As a cruiser, though, you definitely want to be helping take out these smaller targets that maybe spawn on the flanks that battleship guns take forever to turn to. Yeah, that T-61 in the first game, I was a little paranoid about him spawning this far away and almost bricking our last run, or losing us a star on that last run with Royal Sovereign. Make sure to take him out this time, though, that's for sure. Now, as a cruiser, I definitely found this mode to be also very fun. There's plenty of targets to go after, and as well as a lot of flexibility in where you can play your ship. Playing a Fiji was really fun, but so was playing something like a Lazo. That allowed me to take that southern route. Like in this case, we could have been the ship to deal with the Liberty ship number 2 down south as a Lazo, because we have so much range to keep our guns in the fight from down there. That flexibility is nice. I even played a de Grasse, which is a tier 6 ship, not just playing tier 7s, although you do have a lot better chances when you're running a full lineup of tier 7s. But de Grasse, being the Battle Pass ship this month, is like a Le Glacier without a reload booster, but you get better sustained DPM and more HP to start with too. Having that speed boost is really nice for shoring up weaknesses on your team, especially if your teammates aren't noticing which Liberty ship is cutting really far south. Generally in the north, there's going to be 2 Liberty ships that tend to meet up and most of your team will go there. It's oftentimes that southern one that you're going to be missing out on. So if you're playing a cruiser, especially one with an engine boost, that can be a great way to ensure your maybe team of randoms gets this transport ships to the rendezvous point on time. It's not always going to be on you to do that, of course, but these little things can help you gain 1 or 2 extra stars here and there. Overall, though, as a cruiser, this is a solid mode, as long as you don't break from the pack, okay? As long as you're not the one tanking. This is where we want the battleships up front to be tanking for us. And actually, our Royal Sovereign is going to do a great job of that as we move on to taking out the destroyers that maybe spawn south or north, as well as the minefields. I turned to go south, and then I got baited by looking at eliminate force north destroyers. I assumed that that meant they were spawning in the north. Nope, they're just always called Force North for some reason. I hadn't read it before this match, and I assumed that they were called Force South if it was spawning in the south or something. That is not the case. They often will spawn south, but then sometimes they'll spawn north, one or the other too. So just keep an eye out for that. But our Royal Sovereign is now going to tank for us, as well as keep those last couple Liberty ships safe. Notice the Rook, as well as that last Liberty ship, it's still alive on very little HP. So we're going to go help take out the minefields, or rather our DDs. We're doing an excellent job of that. And now it's just to take out the last few remaining enemy ships. So we're going to full send it and see just how quickly a Fiji can melt, even to lower tier ships. It's of course going to be torpedoes, but look at the AP damage in on some of these destroyers. Cruisers are really good in this mode, as are destroyers, as are battleships. I think Wargaming have done an excellent job with these convoys, making them interesting enough while we're doing these missions. It's not interesting enough to be playing constantly 3 to 4 hours every day, in my opinion. I would get a little tired of it, but that's where I think it's a really awesome thing that they added 3 entirely different operations, different tiers, different ships for this event, not forcing you to play one operation over and over and over again to grind out something like San Diego. I'm excited to see what Tokyo Express brings. Again, I am going to be playing that one a lot sooner in its cycle, hopefully getting a video like this one out to you guys to just explain some of the details here, some things to look out for. Yeah, we're actually getting cross-torped here. The bots know how to cross-torp. And we just barely managed to survive. So for cruisers, definitely playing out to the side 1, 2, 3 lines early is good, helping your DDs clear the flanks early, and running up north too if you have to. Diving back down south to ensure that that transport gets through. That's a little bit later on in the game though. Those are the key things to look out for as a cruiser. Now moving on to destroyers, okay? DDs need to activate that first Liberty ship right away. All right, so in this case, it's D2 square. And notice the Liberty ship is facing south. It spawned facing south there. So it's actually not going to go north at all. That's a very, very different path. In fact, that's the one that's going south now. So it's really important that that one is always moving, okay? We cannot let that one stop. Otherwise, I think we're just going to fail that meet at the rendezvous point mission entirely. These early missions I don't find to be too difficult overall. Getting to the designated area, like scouting ahead point, pretty easy for DDs, even battleships to get there in time. That's relatively simple. As well as making sure you have up to 5 people, or at least 5 people inside the transport ship circle. The circles are so big around the Liberty ships if you do get that mission that oftentimes that one's going to be a guarantee as well. I really did just find that Liberty ship getting to that rendezvous point, making sure they're all there on the right time, is the most difficult part. And finally, we're going to activate this last Liberty ship. Notice again, 2 of them tend to link up. Usually those aren't the ones that you got to worry about. It's the one that goes south, and in this case, it's the first Liberty ship that you really got to pay attention to. If your cruisers aren't going with it as a DD, you're pretty quick, so you can get down there and support and make sure that guy keeps going on his path. That is something you should be watching out for as a destroyer at all times, making sure these things do not stop. We don't want to activate them too quickly. It worked out with that Rook doing it in the last match. But as a DD, you don't offer quite the support as a battleship might as far as tanking incoming enemy fire. Although, we can play open water gunboats here. I'm playing Blys. It's a solid gunboat, open water, but we can't be sitting in front of bots, like this many bots, almost all on our own. It's because of the heal. It heals so much HP that as a gunboat DD, you can just open up with your guns. I didn't find myself in too much trouble until that healing turned off once the Liberty ship got to its rendezvous point. I also want to call out, notice 2 of our DDs, now we're in a div here, and in stream, I'm telling people on stream, right, what we need out of them. In this case, the Gallant as well as the Icarus, escorting those last 2 Liberty ships southward. That's what's going to make sure that we get that 5-star. It'd be very easy for one of those to get stopped, and then we only get 4 stars, which is still a good result, you know, as long as you get 2 of those ships to the very end of the map. But that's what you got to do sometimes if you want to guarantee that 5-star. Here we're also trying to smoke up the Liberty ship. I wasn't sure how close those destroyers got. It seems like the bots tend to focus on player ships when they're around. They won't just instantly target the Liberty ships when they're spotted, as long as a player ship is close enough. But I didn't want to take any risks, that's why I smoked. It's also nice to have that smoke now that the Liberty ship has turned off his healing. Look at how quickly we lost HP there once that heal went away. We got to be careful now. But while that heal's active, then it's not too bad. We're going to rush ahead to deal with these minefields. That's, of course, the DD's role if you have them. Some cruisers also can do it, but destroyers are so much quicker that you can get here pretty much as these spawn. And then you drop a few depth charges off of them, and it's pretty easy to take them out very, very quickly. Although make sure you don't give up those destroyers rushing at your Liberty ships at the same time. And overall, I really did like this operation. I think there's some complexity here. There's different roles that people need to fill with their designated class. Like DDs want to go on the 1, 2, 3 lines, getting that first Liberty ship as soon as possible and not letting that thing stop. Cruisers want to go with them, especially if that first one's path goes really far north. Otherwise, a cruiser probably wants to hit up that second one if it wants to go really far south, using its range. Maybe you're a longer range cruiser. Battleship wants to get up towards the D4, D5 square, and from there just slowly move along the D line towards D8, D9, and then be tanking from there for your team, getting your secondaries going, main guns. It's going to take these lower tier bots a very long time to take you out, while your destroyers, your cruisers are managing the Liberty ships generally, as well as going and taking out those DDs that are wanting to pinch in on your Liberty ships while that minefield is up. Pretty cool operation overall. Good job, Wargaming, as well as this event in general. I really love that we can play the game and earn some content. I think that is so cool. And for the most part, I've seen generally positive things about this update. I think most people are pretty excited. I've seen a lot of comments from players who say they've been away from the game for a really long time and they're installing the game again to play some of these operations, earn some of the new content and the free content, which I think is awesome. I am so excited for this second half of the year, all the way to Christmas. It seems like they got some pretty nice updates planned. And overall, things are looking up for World of Warships. There we go. Another 5-star feels pretty good. But also let me know what you think in the comments down below about this operation and about this video in general. As promised, we're going to do a couple videos on these operations. PvE content, bit of new territory in this game for me, as I often am playing random battles. Playing in some divs with people on stream was really cool too. Overall, I think this is a really, really cool event. And here in the name of tomorrow, we got ourselves to the 12th phase. This one took 6 stars to complete. Now that we're here though, we gotta wait for the second chapter to start. Again, if you miss some of these, don't worry. At the end of the 3rd week, once that 3rd operation is complete, they'll just rotate through the first 3 operations over and over again in a playlist, and that'll allow you to clean up some stars that you missed. The one thing I am a little concerned about is over here. Just note that if you join the event late, you'll have to progress sequentially from the very first operation, unlock each chapter one by one, earning enough stars for each stage. So does that mean next week, or a couple days after this video goes live, we'll get to that second phase? And if people didn't fully complete this first phase of this narrative campaign, does that mean they won't earn any stars towards that second phase until they finally complete the first phase? And if that's the case, does that mean they'll have to wait for this rotation period and then do the entire thing there while randomly getting different operations and maybe not getting the one they need for many battles at a time? That could be a problem. I'm not sure if that's exactly how it works. My hope would be that you need to complete all 3 operations star requirements, but you don't need to do each one after the other as a hard cap. I hope that that's not the case. We'll see, I guess, when this next phase comes out. But that would be points against Wargaming if you're thinking about doing this again, or maybe you can change it. But at the end of the day, it's pretty cool that we have so much content that Wargaming's made specifically for this update that's completely dedicated to anyone who plays the game. It's not locked behind crazy paywalls. You just log in, start playing, and this whole narrative campaign, alongside getting San Diego at the end, you can get that completely for free just by playing. I think that is really cool, and missions and events like this, it's what I've been waiting for so long. In the first half of 2025 here, feels like a massive breath of fresh air, and more to come as we get towards the end of the year. It's looking pretty good as far as the direction Wargaming is going. That could be a brief blip on a general trend line, or perhaps we really have turned a corner. I certainly hope so. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.